it's so wonderful to be here with all of you. The only thing that could be truly more wonderful, if that's the right way to say it, is if we could all be in person, and that hopefully will happen sometime soon. But it's really lovely to be with you. I hope everybody had a good Thanksgiving who celebrates Thanksgiving, and for those who don't, I hope all your days are always, as we said before, happy and full of blessings and being grateful. So today I wanted to just talk to you about, you know, how for myself, and it's not, I know you're going to share these kind of feelings as well, because we're all humans and we all have similar experiences, even though we're in different lives. But very often when I'm trying to contemplate life's experiences, why is this happening in our life? Why is it happening in life in general? Or if I need to be inspired by something, I'll go to certain books. Usually they're self-help books, or they're books about inspirations. I very often read things from the Dalai Lama because I truly love and admire the Dalai Lama. I will read things from Thich Nhat Hanh, which I do love. He's a Vietnamese Buddhist monk, and I think the wisdoms are incredible. I'll go to Wayne Dyer. But what I feel happens to me when I go to these books, although they're incredible inspirational books, is that I feel like a student trying to memorize how I should live to have a better life, you know, to feel more complete, to feel like, okay, I'm doing it all right. So I don't like that mode, because in truth, I was never the greatest of students. And so it was like, okay, you know, I want to get my inspirations and I want to learn where it's not something where I'm shoving it down my throat going, I can't swallow all of this, because I don't want to be only in that student mode. So recently I came across a book while I was doing part of a book group, and the book was called The Midnight Library by McHugh. And I don't know if any of you have read it. I'm sure some have. If you haven't, I'm not going to go give a complete book review, because if I do, I feel like you're not going to read it. And I really feel like everybody needs to read this book. Doesn't matter, male, female, there's something there that everybody will gain from this. So I'm just going to tell you first a little bit about what this book is about. And I don't want to give too much away, but I think it's important for you to know. First of all, I do want to say that it starts out being very depressing, and that's the only way I can say it. And at the beginning, I thought, do I really want to hang with this? Because the girl who the story is about is similar in age to my daughter. I know my daughter's going through things in her life that she's trying to figure out. And so I'm like, I don't know, you know, I'm part of this book group right now, but I don't know if I really want to read this. But something made me get past the true sadness of the beginning of this book. And in fact, I'm going to go off a little bit and just tell you a quick story. As I got past what I called the saddest part of this book at the very beginning, and I really started reading further, I really embraced this book as such a life experience, even though it's a fictional book. This gentleman did not write this book with the idea of it being a self-help book. I think he wrote it from experiences that he has had in his life, or he's just thought about. But as I was reading this book on a nice warm day, I think it was, Ken and I had walked around a track that we go to, and then we sat and I was reading this book, and a young girl kept circling, you know, on this walking path and circling. And finally, she started talking out loud, but I was reading the book and I didn't understand at the beginning that she was talking to Ken and I. And she said to me, "Do you like that book?" Now, she was about the same age as the girl in the book and same age as my daughter. "Do you like that book?" Because I started reading it and I found it very depressing and I stopped. And with my usual self of talking probably too much, I said, "No, I love this book. Every human being needs to read this book. You need to read this book. And she went on, she said, I just found it very depressing. I don't know if I should get through it. And I said, please read it. And she walked away, and we had a special connection in that way, because she was hearing from someone else, you can get through the worst of it, and there'll be something that will uplift you through that. So with that little story behind, I want to tell you about this book. The book explores the infinite, and this is the summary of the book. The book explores the infinite possibilities of life through the experiences of a young 35-year-old woman, Nora Seed, who lives what she believes to be a monotonous, ordinary life. She feels unwanted, unloved, and unaccomplished. And one night, in her deepest despair, she decides that she is going to take her life. Now, I know everybody's going, because that's what I did when I read that part. But she had just lost her beloved cat. She lost her job. She feels she's disappointed a lot of people in her life. And so because of that, she doesn't see any hope in remaining on this earth. So she does try to commit suicide, or she does do that. Okay, so that being said, and that saddest of parts, being revealed and gone, Nora ends up where she now is awakens, if you want to say it that way, in a different life. And the life that she awakens in is basically an in-between. It's an in-between place. And it's called the Midnight Library. Let me just refer a little bit to the book. So when she appears at this building, this big brick building, and she walks through the doors and she sees all the walls. I mean, it just seems like there's floor to ceiling and then an endless amount of walls of books in the color green. Now, I don't know the real significance of the green. I kind of thought of the green as being healing, because that's what I think of green for myself as a healing situation. She's bewildered. She doesn't know what she's looking at. And all of a sudden, a woman appears, and she starts to recognize her a little bit. And she realizes it was the librarian in her school, in her grammar school, who she really had a close bond with. That woman actually was a mentor to her. She kind of soothed this young girl who didn't know where she belonged in life. And at the age of 9, there's a traumatic part of her life that happens. And this librarian is there to see her through it. So in the Midnight Library, there is Mrs. Elm, the beloved librarian. And Nora asks her what this is. And she explains to her that the Midnight Library is the place between life and death. And the shelves are all filled with volumes of Nora's life. So any one of those volumes that she picked would be a different direction that she could go or could have gone with her life. And there are also books of regrets. So there's volumes and volumes of regrets. So she reads through the regrets, and then she's able to get to the point where she chooses to read the volumes of her life, how any one of them could have been her life, taken her in different directions. In one volume, she was actually an incredible swimmer who could have gone to the Olympics. Like I said, I'm revealing a lot, and I don't want to reveal so much because I want you to read it. But in other volumes, she could have gone another direction that also she had been, a good student in college and different things. So she starts to read all of these books. And each time she does, she's taken to a different life. She ends up reviewing that life, whether she's there for an hour or she's there for a day or she's there for a month. She takes on that life of Nora Seed in that particular life that she would have led. And while she's there, she meets up with the people that she would have known. She is not in reality. She is aware she's not in reality, but they're living their reality. So they don't know that she hasn't been part of their life. She knows she's hopping in and out of it. So with that being said, each time she chooses another volume, she kind of looks at it and the regrets are there. Well, I didn't go with this particular guy because it was really at bad timing. And so I didn't want to go in the direction he was going or move away with him. What a regret she had about that. But then she's able to, for whatever period of time, take on that life with him. And she realizes that this man who she thought was this incredible person, she would have a good adventure with him, whatever, turns out to fall a little short, to not be what she thought he would be. And she actually feels like, oh my gosh, thank God I didn't do that. Thank God I didn't go in that direction, because that would not have been a life I could live. So of course, it's going to be repetitive if I keep saying to you that each life that she thought she had or wanted to be a part of, and there were many, many lives, just like we all, okay, I thought at one time, wouldn't it be nice if I was a teacher? Okay, I'm staying home and being a stay-at-home mom with the kids and working part-time, or maybe I should have gone away to college instead of staying home. We all have these thoughts of, what we could have done, what we should have done, the woulda, coulda, shouldas. And so she's reading these volumes, realizing and experiencing that every single time she takes out another volume and she goes to that life, that, wow, that wasn't exactly like I thought it would have been. So now it makes her realize as time goes on that, you know what, okay, this life wouldn't have been as good as I thought it would have been, and that life wouldn't have been as good as I thought it would have been. And she just continually experiences this, but keeps saying to Mrs. Elm, who is always popping back and forth into this, well, but why can't I find the life that I would be the happiest in, and everything would be perfect, and this person would still be alive, and this person would still be friends with me, and this and that. And Mrs. Elm is kind of saying to her, because there's no volume of your life that would ever be perfect, that would ever be everything that you ever wanted or needed. What you need to do is find where you can be at least the most content, the most happy. So as time goes on, she experiences more and more and more, and it doesn't work out. At one point, she gets to a life, and this is towards the end of the book, where she thinks, wow, this is my perfect life. I have everything I could have wanted, and again, I'm not going to reveal all of it because I'm hoping you'll read it, but I have this now, I have this now, I have this now. And all of a sudden she feels that, this life is like really perfect. I don't know that I would have to learn a lot from here, because everything seems to be almost too good. So even that is a learning experience for her, that the perfect life that she thought she wanted turns out to be, it's a little dull or whatever. So you might be thinking at this point, okay, she's giving me a lot of information, and believe me, I'm trying to hold back on all the details, because if I was in a book club, I would have shared, like, let me share everything with you. Let me share every thought about this book. But I think what I'm trying to get through to this is, why am I telling you about this book? Or why do I think it's like a really important book for everybody to read? And I guess the answer to that is because all of us have been in that situation where we say, well, okay, I chose this life, but you know what? I could have chosen that life, and that would have been a good direction for me. And maybe fear, maybe anxiety, maybe disappointments kept you from doing that. But in truth, and again, as Leslie and we were saying before, as spiritualists, we kind of believe you're brought to where you need to be. That doesn't mean it's going to be perfect. It just means that the life experiences that you're living now are probably what you truly needed to learn and grow. So with this discovery, with reading this, I found myself gaining more feelings of knowledge through this fictional book than I have in recent times by reading, you know, an inspirational book or reading poetry, which I love to read, or short little stories, because this was something I didn't expect. I didn't expect to pick up this book that really was about sadness, despair, you know, hard times, you know, kind of like not the perfect life that somebody would want, but to learn so much from it. And what I did learn from it is that, and I was kidding around with Ken, I said, well, what I did learn from it is, you know, along the way, I think I've made a lot of mistakes. I think maybe, you know, I've been looking for different things, but I said at the age of 17, I was pretty smart. I picked the right person. So that was one really good choice that I made. I picked the right spouse to go through life with. And even at the age of 17, I knew that. But there are other choices that you make in life that it doesn't matter what age you are, you question them all the time. Was this the right choice? If I had done something different, would it have worked out better? Would I have been more knowledgeable, you know, more content? And I guess the answer after reading this book is that if one thing changed, and there's one part of this book, and I'm not going to reveal it, I'm going to go around it, that she finds herself like underplaying something that she's done for someone else. And in underplaying it, she thinks, well, what could that really have meant to that person? You know, how important could it have been? But then she finds when she steps away and is, after viewing that life, that if she hadn't done what she did for this one particular person, his life would have been so tragic, so hard, not a good life for him. And because she stayed in what she thought was a small gesture with this, and I'm going to say young man, his life turned out to be much better than it would have been otherwise. So I just wanted you to think about, you know, how, first of all, what does it take for you to get your inspirations? Do you have to read a self-help book, which I'm not downplaying, I love them? Do you have to listen to an inspirational talk? Where do you find your joys? Where do you find your knowledge coming from? And I think it comes from everywhere. No matter, we can listen to a piece of music, we can read a fictional book, and sometimes it's just what we're ready to hear. And I think that's how I felt. Maybe if I had read this book at a different time, it would not have affected me the way it did now because of some of the life experiences that I'm going through. So I just wanted you to think about this and understand that life experiences for all of us are really different, but the same, because we all have the same things that we are blessed with, that we're lacking, that we want to change. And I think that sometimes you have to be in the darkest place, like this young woman is, and review things before you can see truly that you are in the right place. And even if the right place isn't forever, it's the right place for now. And I've often told that to our children. Okay, well, you're not happy about this, or you haven't found that job, but you're in the right place for now. That doesn't mean in 3 years that place will be the right place, and then you'll figure it out again. But I'm hoping that you will read this book, because, and you know what, now I'm feeling like stressed because I hope that when I'm telling you how you know, uplifting this book turns out to be, I'm hoping that you read it and love it and don't go, what the heck was Lynn talking about? Because this book is not all that that she's, you know, saying it is. But not only did this story really affect me from the standpoint of learning a lot from it, like trying to find more contentment with decisions or viewing my children in a different way of what they're doing, But it also made me realize that I want to read every single one of this man's books, because his writing was so heartfelt and so amazing, the way he was able to get through in a fictional story and tell you about this girl's life and have it replicate some of the things in our own life. So what I do want to end with is the fact that if you has anybody heard of this author before? Does anybody, by a show of hands, has anybody heard of this author? Okay, I think Barbara's showing that she did. Well, what's interesting about this author is that he does have a lot of books, and a lot of them are, again, there's one book that is a reflection, I believe, of his life. And he had great anxiety in his life. I think he suffered from anxiety disorder. And that book is called Reasons to Stay Alive. And that's his first nonfiction book. And that is about his life coming into depression and anxiety around the age of 24. And that, again, is called The Reasons to Stay Alive. Another book of his is called The Comfort Book. And that's a manual of reflections for an increasingly stressful world, which, let's face it, the last almost 2 years have been about as stressful as they get in a normally stressful world. So that one does deal with how to find reflections in a stressful world and give you hope, hope for the moment, hope for the future. And he talks about the Comfort Book as being a collection of little islands of hope, a gathering of consolations and stories that give us new ways of seeing ourselves in the world. There, again, another book that's really trying to help people understand what's going on in their lives. And it's fictional, but still there's the nonfiction that he has there and the fictional. And I think, in my point of view, if he does as good a job with these other books as he did with this one, I think that they're worthy of me reading every single one of them. I don't care how long it takes me. Another one of his books, which I'm sure Barbara has probably heard of, and I think it's pretty famous, is How to Stop Time. And that is about a 41-year-old teacher who has a rare condition, has been alive for centuries, and he meets with historical characters such as Shakespeare, Captain Cook, and F. Scott Fitzgerald. Now that one I'm thinking, well, I got to read that next, because that sounds like it's a really, really interesting book. And then also there is a book, he writes children's books as well. And the book that I put down here, I think you'll recognize as being a movie, and it's called A Boy Called Christmas. And that is about believing in the impossible. And also another book called The Girl Who Saved Christmas. And that's about, again, saving Christmas. But those are the children's books. So not having any knowledge of reading the children's books, I can't say anything about them other than if he writes as well as he did for the Midnight Library, then again, buy it for a grandchild and enjoy, or your children, whatever. But I just wanted to bring this book forward, really not as a critique of the book, but more as a life experience, really learning that through this, again, I keep saying not this fictional book, how it reached out to me and said, yeah, well, you could have gone any other directions, and maybe they would have been good for a period of time, or maybe they would have had good in it. But where you are is where you're supposed to be. So I just want to leave you with that thought. I hope some of you will read the book. If I've given you too much information on it and you don't want to read the book, then I understand that too. But it really was something I wasn't expecting to pick up this book that I was reading for a book club and find it really touch my heart and really taught me so many things in 300 pages. So I just want to leave that with you. And I thank you very much for listening to me. And again, if you do read the book, enjoy it. If you choose not to read the book, I hope that a little bit of what I've told you about the book will make you understand that we're all in the right place and the choices we've made are the right choices, maybe not forever, but certainly for now. Thank you. Thanks very much.